Let's hit that recording in 3, 2,
I
1.
thought you were already recording.
I am recording. I
Oh, you're
hit that.
saying we're
Yeah,
doing the recording.
actually go into the
We're
recording,
we're
not
gonna
just.
we're gonna okay, I got you. All right. All right.
Let's go. All right, cool.
Welcome to the Christian Board Gamers Podcast, where we focus on Jesus, community, and board games. Let's have some fun.
What is up, everyone? My name is Joe Bragg, and thank you for listening to the Christian Board Gamers Podcast. I am joined, as always, by my dear brother Ray, and we are excited to chat about Jesus, the Bible, Christian living, board games, and life in general. There is no telling where we might go. Hey, Ray Dizzy, how you doing today, man?
What's up, Joey Buckets? Hey, I'm doing
What up?
great.
What
I
up?
love
What
the
up?
nicknames and
Yeah.
that just happened to come out of thin air here. But I'm doing fantastic. I am excited as always, man, and looking forward to our discussion this evening.
Yes, as am I. All right, so this episode is sponsored in part by Living Water Gaming. Their mission is to be the one-stop shop for Christian games and gaming accessories. Visit livingwatergaming.com to learn more. That's livingwatergaming.com to learn more. Also, we are sponsored by Refocus Creative, resourceful video marketing solutions. Refocus Creative offers high-quality professional video production services for any of your business marketing needs. You can contact them at info@refocuscreative.com. That's info@refocuscreative.com to schedule a free chat and discuss your media needs. If you're a game designer and you're listening to this, Chris over at Refocus Creative, he does how to play videos. He did a couple for me. He does a great job, takes care, time, effort, gets a script. It's just really nice. And so I want to encourage you, if you're a designer and you're listening to this and you're looking for another brother in Christ that could do a how to play video, contact Chris, man. He's real pleasant to work with. So really excited about that. So huge thank you to our sponsors. In other news, the next Game Changer board gaming retreat is September 20th through the 22nd at Camp Living Waters in Luther, Michigan. Mark your calendars, write it down, do whatever you got to do. Get there. September 20th through the 22nd at Camp Living Waters in Luther, Michigan. This is going to be a fantastic weekend filled with gaming, praise, worship, prayer, messages. Super excited. Registration is open, and you can learn more and register at camplivingwaters.org/game-changer. That's camplivingwaters.org/game-changer. Go check it out. Get registered. Can't wait to see y'all in September. It's going to be an absolute blast. Ray,
Yes.
we had a crazy night at the center here in
Yeah.
Kalamazoo, Michigan. It was nutso.
The city of Kalamazoo had a crazy night in
Yeah,
general. Yeah.
the city did have a crazy night. The Kalamazoo Portage area was
Yes.
pretty wild. We were running our normal middle school club, and so that means we had middle school students that were there. They were playing basketball. We were actually getting ready for dinner. No, we were getting ready for the message, and all of our phones just like literally just went off with this alarm. And we had a tornado watch, but it became a tornado warning, and we were kind of on its direct path, which was pretty crazy. And so all of our phones told us to get into the basement now in all caps. And I take that to mean screaming at me,
Yep. It
get
definitely
into the
was.
basement. And so we had now a whole bunch of middle schoolers that we had to bring into a basement. And, I was actually pretty impressed with the students. They all listened to us, and they were, in an orderly fashion, went down into the basement. And even in the basement, they didn't get crazy, which was pretty cool. But we did have
Yeah.
some people that were they were struggling with some anxiety. So we had to kind of work through it like, hey, it's okay. But tragically, it seems as though there were some casualties that I've heard, and again, it's rumored, but it's probably legit. Where there was some destruction from this thing, which was pretty
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
And so that's super hard. One of our students, his girlfriend, their house was, I guess, pretty well wrecked by a tree that had come down, and just pretty wild stuff. And I mean,
Yeah.
I've been here since 2005, and I haven't encountered anything quite
Yeah.
like this. So
1980 was the last recorded tornado that actually touched down here in Kalamazoo and did some damage. And yeah, over
Man.
Portage, which is kind of our sister city here, had a lot more damage there. We actually had two tornadoes that came through, but our FedEx building, the whole roof of my nephew actually works there, and said everybody was okay. The building was mangled up pretty bad, but there were some people stuck in the building that they were trying to get out last that I talked to him.
Man.
There's a couple of other spots there, but yeah, I mean, it's just the Category 3 tornado that touched down and did some damage, but praise God, I have not heard of anybody losing their life at this point. I haven't heard of anything that I know of. I don't know if there's a count or anything, but I do know that there were some buildings. So
yeah, I had heard some murmurings of casualties.
Okay.
Again, it's all murmurings, but we're praying that's not the case. You know, in general, just really, really wild. You know, and again, to know that tornadoes were touching down and causing damage was actually pretty intense. And, you know, obviously wanting to, you know, keep all the students safe. And I don't know, it actually proved to be on our end a relatively good night, which was cool. And a chance to even, you know, thank our students for not freaking out and responding in an orderly fashion and, you know, that kind of stuff. It was kind of cool to see them, you know, kind of sober and paying attention and focused. And I thought that was actually really good. That gave me a lot of hope in the event of an emergency. We have kids that listen. Which again, to me, Bill, it's another trust thing. It's a respect thing. You know, there's trust and respect there, but we're naturally praying for the families that have lost anyone or anything. And so, yeah, super, super wild night, here. And then all of a sudden it broke into complete sunshine and there were rainbows everywhere. So, you know, praise God, reminded of his promises through his covenants, and just,
amen to that.
Excited, to be able to just praise him. And, again, praying for safety and, man, yeah. So very, very heavy evening. Not the evening we thought we would experience, but again, everyone at the center was good, and there was no damage on our end. So, yeah, man. Totally switching gears.
How do you transition from that? It's kind of
you don't.
Tough,
it's like it's a tough one, and you kind of just sit in it. And
although all the rain that came through here will make the grass and flowers grow and trees grow as well.
Yeah.
And we just so happen to be going to a school called the Tree of Life.
Wow, good. That was nice. That was a nice segue. Yeah.
So tell me what the Tree of Life is, Joe.
Well, biblically speaking, no. So we actually have a really cool opportunity tomorrow. And again, by the time you hear this, tomorrow will have already passed. So I guess it doesn't really matter, but it'll be tomorrow to us. And we're going to go to the Tree of Life School and the Path of Life School. And what they are is the Tree of Life and Path of Life are kind of a really unique situation. The president and principal there, his name's Adam, and he started a school that was to be in the city and was to be an affordable alternative education, right? That's not from the public school, but an affordable one. And he actually is planted in one of our neighborhoods here, and he launched a K through 6th grade school, or I think it's K through 8. And just it's an affordable kind of like a private type school, but it's got a biblical base, which is awesome and really, really neat. And Adam's an incredible dude. And then they wanted to start a high school, but they wanted that high school to be less like necessarily like your formal education, but more like trade driven and giving these kids some unique opportunities to be able to, you know, just experience things in a different way and be job ready and that kind of stuff, and have a path for life, right? Like something that they can do. And so really neat opportunity. And what Ray and I are actually doing tomorrow is we have been given pretty much 45 minutes to an hour in both schools to go and talk to these kids about how God is using board games to be able to reach people. And how it happened was I have some copies. I've got like 35 copies left of Remixed Rewired. And that game is essentially obsolete in that we've moved into Meek Heroes Clash and have moved into the second generation of it and have been getting that in front of people. But I was like, what am I supposed to do with these copies of Remix? Like, I don't want them to just sit here. It's still, it's Clash. It's a great game. It just doesn't have the look and all that the new game does. And the Lord put it on my heart to literally just go and see if Tree of Life would use them as prizes. I was like, hey, I've got these games. I'd love to just donate them to you. You can give them to your kids and they can use them as prizes. And it's a fun game because I want to drive more gaming. And Adam was like, or how about you come in and you talk about what God's doing through board games and you teach the kids how to play and you do it that way. And then you can, if you wanted to donate copies, we'll give them out after. And I'm like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
super dope, right? Like what a great way to connect with the students, and be able to, teach them some games and play some games with them and be able to talk about what God's doing in the board
Yes.
gaming space. And I just think sometimes it's so cool how God orchestrates I don't think
Mm.
sometimes, I think all the time. It's so cool how God orchestrates things and how he moves.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, Ray, you got to come with me to go do this. Like I think that would be phenomenal. And so Adam was all for it. Was like, yeah, man, let's do it. And so we're really excited. And tomorrow to
Yeah.
be able to go into the school and talk about Jesus and board games and play games with some kids. I mean, come on, dude.
It's
It's
going to be a great day. Yeah,
like
it's
that is,
everything that we love in one place,
yeah.
and it's going to be an awesome day. I'm looking forward to. I'm actually looking forward to not today some of these kids, man, and let them know what this game is really about. I'm gonna let them know off top, Joe.
Right.
Not today, not
Not
around here. This is how
today.
we play, okay?
Yes. And it's going to be awesome. Yeah, and if you haven't played, Remix Rewired or Meet Heroes Clash, there is a Not Today card. It was originally Not
Yeah.
Today Satan, but I took the Satan part out because you start end up calling people Satan. You'd be like, Not Today Satan. And I'm like, yeah, that's probably, let's just go with Not Today.
Yeah.
It's not the Get Behind Me Satan card, it's the Not Today.
Right.
And so, but again, it's a simple take that game, but it's still a lot of fun
A
and
lot of
there's
fun.
some biblical elements in there. So really excited to sit down and again just teach it to some young people, both in the high school and in the we're focusing more on the middle school portion,
Hmm.
more than elementary school. And so I'm just excited. I think it's going to be an absolute blast.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what a
Agreed.
cool opportunity. And then kind of in some important news, the third thing here before we get into our topic, Ray and I have just been praying, having conversation, talking. We're methodical guys, man. We want to have some conversation and see what's going on. And we were really looking at like our summer and we're like, well, summer gets crazy. We've got youth camps and all sorts of stuff that we're doing. And, I just started having the conversation with Ray about, hey, like sometimes with podcasts, you can do things in seasons. I think it'd be wise for us to really look at seasons and just do a season 1 and then 2 and then so on, and giving each season maybe a little bit of a different tenor. Could have a different look. Want to spend some time even more on the graphics. We eventually want to get into video, all sorts of fun stuff, right? And so we, through some conversation, it makes a lot of sense for us to actually wrap up season 1 at episode 15. So this is episode 14. So we're going to do one more episode, episode 15, and that'll wrap up season 1. And then we will take the summer to like plan, get some bonus content, do some other stuff, get some more people scheduled for some interviews, do some different things so that we can then we can launch season 2 in September. And then we're actually going to run season 2 throughout the whole year again until the summer. And so we'll have, if we can, the way we've got it scheduled and planned, we'd be looking at 21 episodes for season 2, right? And again, I don't want to overstate. That's what our goal is. That's our hope.
Right.
And then we pause for the summer and then come back with season 3 and so on. This gives us time to get a break, gives us time to get more games at the table, hang out, be able to really like dig in and just continue to grow in this space. Ray and I set out. Turns out we weren't born professional podcasters. There are people that do it better. There are people we're learning from. We're observant. We're trying to figure some of these things out because we want to bring quality content because we think it matters and we think that we need to do things with excellence, as it relates to serving Jesus. And we want to do that because we don't want people to not listen. We want people to listen and be encouraged and grow, and enjoy the content. So,
Yeah.
I thankfully didn't get any hate mail about Marvel Zombies, so that's cool. That's
a
cool.
plus. That's a plus.
Because in episode 13 I had some things to say, but yeah, so that's kind of where we're at. And we just wanted to throw that out there. And if you have ideas for shows, anything, like email us at christianboardgamers@gmail.com, or you can go through the website at christianboardgamers.com through the contact. We would love to hear what you want to hear about. I mean, that would be phenomenal, because we sit here like we got to come up with all these topics. It'd be nice if somebody else was like, "Bro, I got a topic idea." It'd be like,
A think tank for us, yeah.
yeah, it'd be
And
super cool.
hopefully in our absence over the next couple months, you guys find yourself longing to
Yeah,
hear me and Joe on the podcast speaking about kingdom things and board game things. And you say, you know what, I cannot wait until September because
let's
it's gonna
go.
be let's go. It's gonna be a new season. And so
Yeah,
in that time, yeah, when those ideas arise and you find yourself missing us, go back and listen to our old episodes, see what we can do better, let us know, and we'll come back a whole new season with a fresh look.
yeah, support that. I'm excited about it. But we have a lot to talk about tonight. I'm excited about this evening's topic. So
Yes.
let's get into the topic of the week.
Topic of the week.
All right, man. So this is something I teased it out in episode 13. That something that's been heavy on Ray and I's heart. And so it was so funny when we started talking. I'm like, man, I've been thinking the same thing,
Yeah.
and really looking at kingdom inspired diversity in board games. We want what we do in the board gaming space or any space to reflect the kingdom of God, man. We want this to represent heaven in its entirety, right? Where you have every tribe, every nation, every tongue, every language,
Yes.
whatever it is. When we come to the table, that there be diversity in that, and we want to continue to promote that. Um, Man, there's so many directions to go in
Yeah,
this
this is a deep
conversation.
topic. It's a
It
very
is.
deep topic, but
It
I think
is.
that I'm glad that we're opening this up to discussion. We may not hit all the points or reach, the bottom of the barrel here, but at least we're opening up to talk about bringing it to the table and discussing this, and maybe this will bring an awareness and a thought provoking thoughts in other people's minds as well of like, yeah, you know what, there's some good points there. So I hope that, as always with every episode we do, that this is an encouragement just to take a look and listen and see how this plays out in your own life for those around you, and hopefully this glorifies God. I mean, that's always our aim, right? So yeah, but
Yeah.
the
Amen.
diversity, Joe, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of lead out just a little bit here. So
Yeah, by all
one thing,
means.
when I came to you and was talking to you about it, it was interesting because I had began to see a lot of pictures and different people posting, especially on our website, on the Facebook group, on Christian Board Gamers Facebook group, and people playing with their family or friends or groups. And then at the Game Changer convention, when we went down to the leaders conference down in Florida, and we had the table there, and it just seemingly there's a general stereotype, with board gamers, and it's like older white guys playing board games, and
I resemble that remark. No.
and so it was just like one of those things that kind of hit me, and I was like, man, this is interesting. Why is that? And how do we create the diversity? And that was what my thought process was, is how do we create the diversity? And along with the other episodes that we have done about the relationship between board games as well as our Christian walk, I thought that this was a perfect topic to talk about bringing in the diversity within the groups, because you said it beautifully, that the kingdom of heaven is going to be all nations, all tribes, all tongues, reflective of different backgrounds. And so as we do all things here in this walk, we should be seeking to try to make heaven or earth look like heaven, right? We should be bringing heaven to earth. And so how do we do that? How do we get other people involved? Why is it because other cultural groups have certain games that they play and are more prone to playing versus board game? Is it because we're not reaching out and trying to include? And maybe this is just the tip of the iceberg and enough for somebody to say, hey, yeah, I got some other diverse friends that are different than myself. Let me try to incorporate them and ask them if they would like to come to our game night,
Yeah.
Because I really do think that it would be a beautiful thing if the game table looked like heaven. We had all different nationalities and backgrounds and stories, and especially when we're talking about fellowshipping and using board games as a tool to fellowship. We should be fellowshipping with people different from ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and seeing different points of views and having
Yeah.
deep discussions. And what better way than board games than to invite somebody into a space that is a little bit different from you, learn their story, and vice versa.
Yeah. No, that's great. And again, I think it's all about bridging the gap, right? And this is one of the things where I love what we have going on in the center and bringing some kids in to play games because we have a diverse group at the center. You know what I mean? We have a number of students that don't play games at home, but they'll come to the center and they'll want to play a game with you and I or whatever.
Right.
And they'll sit down and they'll learn it. And this is all about exposure in some cases because they don't know any other game other than maybe Sorry. What did we
Right.
play? We played Sushi Go,
Yep.
and we had a couple of young men sit down and we asked the guy, like, what games do you play? He's like, I don't play games at all.
I don't
I'm
play.
like, he goes, I don't play. And he did really well. He picked it up very quickly. I mean, it's not a super complicated game, but he had no context. He was like, I don't play games, and actually said he had fun. You know what I mean? Or like, trying to bridge the gap in conversation. Now, I'll
Yeah.
also say this. There's probably a lot more diversity than we see, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I'm going to step out on a limb and say that has to be there. Again, I don't necessarily have quantitative data to prove that, but I'd like to think that there's more diversity.
Yeah.
I think what ends up happening is that, yeah, there are some stereotypes that come along with it. But I think I'm finding more and more that those stereotypes they're there, but they're being broken down, which is
Mhm.
kind of cool.
Mhm.
I was even excited to see at the Game Changer when we had ladies present, right? Like this isn't just ethnicity. This is also, male and female, right? And the fact
Right.
that there were women gamers, and I'm seeing more and more of that, and then learning more and more female designers and getting excited about that because again, I think that's a part of diversity as well. And being able to like you said, use the table as a place of fellowship to bridge the gap, to just continue to develop relationships and not being afraid to step into other people's spaces, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, maybe there's even like from a cultural standpoint where there's different types of games that are played. Like, am I willing to learn other games from other cultures that are different than than what I know?
Right.
I
Yeah.
have a buddy who he does a missionary work in Israel, and he's like, oh, yeah, I cannot remember the name. I'm trying to remember the name of the game, but he's like, it's like this like Jewish Uno. He's like, they love it. It's so much fun, and like he was describing it, and I'm like, man, that sounds like a blast. And I've never heard of the game,
Yep.
but it just sounded really really cool in what they were doing. And he was explaining it to me. He's like, oh man, they'll sit down for hours and play it, and I'm like, that's dope. I wouldn't have any clue that I have never heard of it or whatever. Even like even different regions have different games. I'm from
Yeah.
Massachusetts. We never played euchre.
Right. True. Very.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Great
I
point.
I
Yes.
came out here and well, actually, my buddy in college brought euchre to Massachusetts from Michigan. He's like, "Y'all
Uh-huh.
ever played euchre?" And I'm like, "God bless you. I have no idea what you just said." And he explained euchre to me. And now then we're playing euchre, and I'm like, wow. And then I had nobody on the East Coast plays euchre.
Right.
They
Yeah.
don't even know what it is.
That's a great point. That is a great point, and that's also another cool diversity to bring about as well, like within this space and seeing what other people and backgrounds they have and other
Yeah.
games that you may not know. I also thought about it in terms of diversity in games as well. The parallel of like we're saying. So diversity in the groups of type of people that are playing, but the diversity in the games that you are playing and the types and the mechanisms and the themes of the game, creating great diversity in there might be welcoming other diverse people to come in and play as well. If we get stuck playing with only one sort of game or a specific game that is more the mechanic that we like and the theme that we like, then maybe at that point we sometimes would exclude other people, and being willing to be open to other mechanics, other themes, other game styles of play, cooperative versus solo, those things as well, and having that as a thought too.
Yeah, no, I love that because we can totally pigeonhole ourselves in our favorite mechanic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't play that type of game, or like, man, if I had $1, yeah, I guess if I had $1 for every time somebody's like, Joe, you got to come play this role playing game, I mean, we could buy some nice ice cream. I could get the premium ice cream, right?
Yeah.
But it's like I'm not a role player. You know what I mean? Like I don't necessarily get into that. The culture of it seems funky to me. But when
Mm,
I say that, how many people am I isolating and alienating? Because I'm like, yeah, no, it's almost like I'm too good for that. You know what I
right.
mean? But honestly, like, and I've shared this with people, I'm like, honestly, there's an uncomfortability for me because I don't understand it. Now, this
Yeah.
brings it into diversity, and even outside of the game table, I think so many times when we're dealing with different ethnicities or different areas, there's things about different cultures we just don't understand, and it
Hmm.
creates an uncomfortability, so we don't step into it because we're going to want to stay in our comfort zone, right?
Yes.
And so
Preach.
I think we have to get uncomfortable and
Yeah.
step into different spaces and show people like, cool, I'm going to learn this, even though I'm uncomfortable. I'm going to step in and I'm going to do this kind of stuff, and again, I think that there's a lot of room in that conversation from a diversity perspective. And this is, to me, this matters, right? Am I willing
Mm,
to get uncomfortable because you matter, right,
yeah.
as a person, and I love you, and I'm gonna get uncomfortable. I mean
Yeah.
that's deeper than just board games in my mind.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. How much do we learn from sitting down with somebody that we are different or don't know their background, or just stepping outside of our like you said, our comfort zone and out of our normal friend zone and going into a place where there's new people. I mean, even if you have one new person at the table, that can throw off the dynamic, and you might be somebody who's like, man, I really like my group. I really like the way that we play.
Yeah,
We have a great chemistry together, and we know the style. And introducing that one person can kind of throw it off, but that is a little bit selfish and missing on an opportunity to see somebody else. I mean, no matter what their background is, and especially learn a new story. And when we're talking about from a Christian perspective as well, like welcoming another brother or sister in and hearing what their testimony is, seeing the amazing things that God is doing in their life, man. And it's all to give God glory, right? And honor him, and be able to say, man, it's awesome to see how God has what things he has done in your life and how he's used you, and privileged to be at this table with you, I mean,
yep,
ultimately. And so I think there's a lot of encouragement that happens in that too. And there's a lot of barriers that get broke down. Like
yes,
I know when people step into that uncomfortable zone, like talked about on my testimony being biracial and stuff, when people stepped in to that uncomfortable zone and maybe asked me how I was doing from a different background, and really checked in on me and wanted to know more about me, that broke down barriers,
yep,
and it creates a level of understanding. There's more empathy that I have versus forming just my own thoughts that it allows me to know somebody better, and not marginalize somebody or not create a stereotype in my head about somebody else
yeah,
because nobody has reached out, right?
yep,
So if we can do that and step in those uncomfortable spaces and reach out to people and learn and say, hey man, I really want to know, like, what are the things in your life that breaks down those barriers that I think that we all really desire to happen in the world, to see
yeah,
some, we want the peace in the world, and we want the different sides to come together and reconcile. And I mean, there's so many biblical scriptures of reconciliation, where if we're talking about going to the church and reconcile with your brother, if we're going in
yep,
Ephesians, we're talking about the building up of the body, and
hmm
the eyes and the ears and the arms and the hands and the body working together in perfect unison. And all nations, all tongues, all tribes, to the Greek first, and then to the Gentiles, and then the Jew first, and then them. I mean, there's so many things throughout the Bible that speak about I became all things to all people, that I may be able to go and preach. And it's like, that's what we need to do, is remember that there's so many other people out there. And you said a key thing just a moment ago about being a bridge. Like, if we could all be bridge builders
yes.
and seek to bridge that gap, and to learn about that other side, learn about that unknown, learn and take time just in one person. I mean, that could do a huge amount of work in that space.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things, so, I mean, Ray and I, we work in a very urban setting, right? Like we have a pretty high African American population, but again, we have a pretty diverse group. And like
Yes.
one of the things in conversations that I have with like our volunteers, because you'll have like more of the suburban volunteer, right? Again, this is just the reality of it. And like they talk about like, well, how do you connect? How do you do these kind of things? I'm like, man, ministry is so much about just showing up. Like it's 80 to 90% being present.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we've had a lot of conversations as you're navigating the waters of like racism and dealing with these kind of things. And I'm like, we shatter narratives by getting involved. You
Yes.
shatter narratives by stepping up and stepping in and saying like, hey, like I'm here. I'm here for you. I'm here to help. I'm here to talk. I'm here to learn. I'm here to love. I'm here to just listen, like, and just
Yeah.
build these relationships. And this is how we shatter narratives. You know what I mean? So when the media is all like, people are like, yeah, I don't know because that's not my experience.
Yeah.
Because, hey, I know Joe at the center and he's not like that. And I know so and so at the center, he's not like that. And this
Right.
is how you start to shatter these narratives and really just start to bridge these gaps. And this is a big deal to me. And I'm not
Mm-hmm.
going to get emotional. No, it's too late. No, it matters because so much of this stuff that I think we see in the world in so many areas, it just breaks my heart.
Mm.
And, man, um, and I know like in my own heart, it's like, Lord, like I can go and generate change. I might
Mm.
not be able to change the world, but I can change my surroundings. I
Mm-hmm.
can be a vessel and a voice for you and an ambassador for your kingdom in this space. And I hope that changes the world, right? Like I mean
Yep.
that really that hits me a lot. You know what I mean? Like that's why I love what I get to do and in that space and being that bridge maker, being that person that can start to, you know, tear down walls and get in uncomfortable, hard situations
Mm.
and
Mm-hmm.
just meet people in that.
Yeah.
And I long for that, especially out of the body of Christ. Of all people,
Yeah.
it's the body of Christ that I'm like, yo, like we can do better.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can do better, and we need to because you know I get it. Like I mean, I've had conversations about how segregated the church can be in a lot of cases. Some of that is just flat out demographics. There's not really
Yeah.
much you can do. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's
Right.
just the area.
Yep. Yep.
But
Patient
in
population, the area where
right,
your location, and yep.
correct.
Yep.
But in other cases, I think sometimes we just naturally like, you know, get into like-minded circles of people that look like us, act like us, talk like us, and so that can just be the case. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, how do we mix that up, you know, a little bit? And how do we engage in these conversations? And I'm loving what I'm seeing in Kalamazoo. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of, you know, just churches coming together, a lot of different things that are really really exciting and it's pretty cool to see and be a part of
Yes, it
in
is.
a lot of ways and so that's just really encouraging to me because yeah I really want to and long to be that bridge maker and bring you know again that kingdom inspired diversity like man, people to me, just people are people, and I want to love people and meet
Yep.
people where they're at and point them to Jesus or grow with them in Jesus, whatever the circumstance is. And
Yep.
I just can't help but think that board games is a great place to do that.
Amen to
And
that.
yeah, and if that means we're just playing party games and I really want to play a heavy Euro, that's cool. We're playing party games. I'm just gonna whatever. Like I am just
Uh-huh.
here to have a good time and you know, and again, I even think our game nights that we have at the center, you know, is another a small microcosm of diversity, and we can
It is.
start bridging these gaps, and
Yep.
I love that. And you see people playing at the table, and you're like, yeah, you know, cool that they may have never met in any other circumstance, and yet here it is, or at the center with the students, and the students, you know, I mean, tell me, all right, just you know, one of our students, you know who I'm talking about. His first name starts with T. I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
say it because I'm not going to put him out. Like if we break out any game, it don't matter
Yeah.
what it is. He's like the
He's
first.
there. He's there.
He's there, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and he just gets into it, and it's
Yeah,
like
he does.
I love that. He's like, what
Yep.
game we playing? And I'm like, oh, all right,
Yeah. Yep.
okay,
He's in.
and
He's
yeah,
in.
and to him that's new.
Uh-huh.
That's new, but it's
Uh-huh.
exciting, and he just wants to sit down at the table because he enjoys playing them, but he also enjoys the interactions and like kind of just gets it, you know. And
Yeah.
he's like a super chill kid, but he'll
Yeah.
also recruit other people to play. He'll be like, "Oh, come over here and play this game." Like he's an includer, and I love that.
Yeah,
And
yeah. He's a bridge builder himself,
yeah,
just naturally by sitting down and being one of them and playing, and it
yeah,
allows that door to be open for other students to come in and sit down. And
completely agree.
yeah, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I
Uh,
know, you know, it's kind of a shameless plug in some regard because I'm co-designing a game with him, but Michael from Fun First Productions,
mhm.
um, he has these community game nights, and again, it's a diverse crowd, and I love it. You know what I mean? It's like you see the photos, and I'm like, man, you got people from all different ages, different ethnicities, races, like they just people just chilling, man,
Yeah.
playing games, and I'm like, man, that's so dope. And he does such a great job of like bringing community together, and it's like that's the picture. Like that is like the best to me. And it's fun. And
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, this is more of this, man. Let's just keep doing this.
Yep. I love that.
And I think it's just it's such an important thing. And yeah, it's that whole like willingness, right? And
Hmm.
and even looking for opportunity and being willing to like you said earlier, not maybe I don't play my favorite kind of game. I want to learn a different game, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And we can have fun with that just the same.
Y- Yeah. Has now I'm thinking in specific regards to board games and like that exclusion as far as board games go, or maybe you saying no. Has there been any board games that you historically can remember where somebody wanted you to play and you were like, nope, that doesn't sound fun. I'm not going to.
Mm.
But then you actually did get in and you're like, okay, yeah, this is some diversity in the board games that I play, and I enjoyed it and I learned something new and you know.
Hmm. I mean, like I said, outside of role playing games, because it's just
Yeah.
it like there's an uncomfortability for me there. I don't know why, because I'm a bit of a personality, and I could probably get into character and have a
Uh,
great time. It's
uh-huh.
super uncomfortable for me because I don't understand it. But I'm getting closer and closer to being sucked into these circles.
Uh-huh.
But it's like I don't know, man. I'm willing to try most things.
Hmm.
I don't care for social deduction games much. So, if somebody says, like we talked about in an early episode with like Secret Hitler, and I'm like, nope, because everyone just kicks me off the island, whether I'm the guy
Yeah.
or not. So
Yeah.
it's not much fun for me.
But
But
but it's crazy because you're so good at them though.
yeah,
That's like
well,
that's kind of the funny thing is that like
and that's
you're
the
good
problem
at them.
because then
Yeah.
everyone kicks me off because they're like, nope, he's good at it. He's figured out what's
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
Kick him off. And I'm like, no, just let me play.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'll try most things. I'm not really like, but I guess like I'll go into a game and not necessarily like when so recently played Mosaic, right? And it's
Hmm.
a heavy game. There's a lot going on. It's really once you get playing, it's not that hard. I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I
Mm,
did, right? Like that
mm,
happens to me a lot where I'm like, cool, I'll play it, but I don't know if I'm gonna like it or you know what I mean. And then I walked away from like that game was like, yo, that game's sweet, man. That game's
mm,
fire, right?
hmm.
But I have more of that I think than like, oh, I'm not gonna play that. I
Yeah.
don't I don't. I like games all across the spectrum, and for me I'm more of like what's the group vibe,
Mm,
right?
hmm.
Like
Hmm.
as we've talked in earlier episodes, like the Uno to Anachrony stuff, right? Like, where are you at in this sphere?
Yep.
And what do you like to play is much more my style. And I also love teaching games. So
Right.
I'm like, I don't want to say love. I enjoy it. Love might be a strong word in that because it sometimes can be really hard and, there's so much to remember, but I do really enjoy it. And it's really fun space. So like, yeah, I'll play just about anything.
Mm,
Um,
hmm.
so,
Hmm.
but that's just I just really enjoy the hobby, man. So like I'll try all sorts of different things, and yeah, I walk away and I'm like, wow, I didn't expect to enjoy that as much as I did.
Yeah.
But I simultaneously I do struggle with like dungeon crawls,
Mm,
as I
hmm.
mentioned in the last
Hmm.
episode, not really my thing. So I don't necessarily run to it, but I'm not like, nope, won't play it. That's
Yep.
not really my MO. Like I said, I'll try just about anything, and give it a go. That doesn't mean I'll
Yeah.
like it, but I'll try it.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be nice if everybody had that same attitude and it was so easy to invite people into the game space and be like, "Hey, man, come play this game with me. We're gonna travel through time and we're gonna get off this planet and get some resources." And they were like,
Yeah,
"Yeah, it's awesome. I just want to get to
yeah,
meet some new people. So yeah, I'll
right.
do it." You know what I mean? Like I think
Yeah,
there's a little bit of a it probably does take a little bit of a pre-relationship getting to know somebody to invite them into that game space to that
yeah,
table and trying to say like, hey, this is what we're going to do. Maybe not starting out with such a heavy game and like
right.
you said, more party games and just breaking down those walls. And yeah, creating the diversity in the games that you're even playing, just to get the diversity in the room.
Correct.
But yeah.
Well, and I think just like anything else, even relationships, things can be intimidating, right? You
Mm,
know what I mean? And so it's like, I don't want to play the time traveling robot game because that's intimidating. There's 4 billion pieces, and whoa, there's no way I can learn this. And it's like, yeah, you probably could. You're
mm-hmm,
pretty intelligent, but you're intimidated. Same thing, I think, relationally.
mm,
I think sometimes people are intimidated by certain scenarios and situations. And, I also have to remember, like, not everyone's wired like I am. You know what
mm-hmm,
I mean? I'm a little bit more extroverted, but simultaneously, I'm not a super great, like, assimilator, right?
mm,
Like, I'm good at, like, once people are at the table, well, I don't want to say, in that case, I'm better at assimilation, but, like, you are really good at just walking up to anybody and being like, yo, come play this game. And
mm.
and I'm more like I'll set the game up and make it available and I'll start working through that and then you go off and you go get all the people and then I can bring everybody together,
Yeah.
and we can play at the table. That's more my skill set. So sometimes that gets intimidating to me. Even though I'm extroverted, I'm an ambivert, right? So like I
Mm,
I battle and wrestle introvertedness just the same. And so like sometimes that can be daunting, even though but
mm-hmm.
I force myself out of that
Yeah.
space and I try to be more bold with it and I try and try to step into new places or sit down and play a game with people I've never met in my life just because I'm gonna do that and that's gonna be fun and we're just gonna enjoy that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, but not everyone's going to do that, right? And so I think there's an intimidation. There's,
Yeah.
and even to be like, well, I don't know what we're going to talk about or what, and this is one of the things that I like about board games and why I think they're such great tools is that if anything, you can talk about the game,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you have that in front of you, and that's what you can talk about
Yeah.
and you can work through and it's just like, man, I really like this or I really don't like this or whatever it is. You at least have some commonality already built into the conversation, and that is the game.
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
and to me that matters relationally, and it matters as we're seeking to bridge gaps between people and sit down at the table and have a good time. You already have a built-in
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Yeah.
Not everyone's as passionate as we are about it, right? I mean, that's the other reality. I'd sit there and be like, sweet, what do you mean, 12 hours of gaming? That sounds
Yeah.
incredible. And some people are like, no,
Yeah. Right.
no,
Right.
no, I'm
Yeah.
not doing that.
Yeah. I mean, like for myself, I wasn't, being new to the hobby and new to a lot of the games that we played are new to me. A
Yeah,
lot of the mechanics are new to me. A lot of the people are new to me and meeting. But like now, looking back at some of the people I've been introduced to, the games that I've been introduced to, the games I play, like I love it.
yeah,
It's opened up a whole new world for me as well. And I appreciate you bringing me in and even like that, the way that God orchestrated this and the path that we're on now and the people that have been around. I mean, I've met a lot of new people, a lot more
yeah,
diverse than myself that I probably wouldn't have met in other spaces, I mean, and
yep,
found some commonalities through Christ and through board games and learned some stories and even with games now, I'm more passionate than I was now. I'm looking to play the larger games, the heavier games.
hmm
The more involved games. And so like just from a personal testimony standpoint, I know that it's inspired, it's been diverse for me in multiple ways, and it's been a fantastic hobby to pick up in time that I've really appreciated, invested into what we're doing. So
yeah. No, praise God for that.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, but again, it's the hobby itself naturally lends to that if we're willing to step into it, right? I mean, I think that's the reality.
Yep.
Like we've said in previous podcasts, I'm not a solo gamer. I have nothing against solo gamers, but generally when I think about board games, I think the community aspect.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's built into it. Like this is 2 to 6 players. Well, I'd like to get 6 players, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or like whatever, and 4 players or just something that's creating that community. And it's like, cool, we got some snacks, we got some water,
Mm-hmm.
because you're not bringing pop near my game. But no, I'm just kidding. Actually, I'm the only one to date that has spilled soda, as I would call it. Pop, as these people in Michigan call it.
Yeah. Pop. Yeah.
Pop, yeah, sure, whatever. Soda, I spilt it all over one of my villainous sets, and I
Oh
was like,
no.
oh yeah, it's
Um,
fine now. It's Captain Hook. He's dried out. I saved it in time, but I'm the only one
oh,
that's
good.
actually done that to date. And it was at a lock-in at like 1 a.m, and I was like, did I
Mm,
really just knock? Yeah, I did. That's
uh-huh.
cool, fine.
Yeah.
But either way, that's not here and there. But I mean, it's like, okay, cool. Let's just sit down at the table. Let's have some snacks. Let's chill out. Let's have that fellowship. Let's have that community. Let's just, again, bridge gaps
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just in general. And I think
Yeah.
it's super fun. I think even like our brother Phil, man, like Phil has even started to really just like enjoy board games. I came out of my office the other day and I said, "Hey Phil," he said, "What?" I said, "Why are board games so much fun?" He goes, "Man, they are fun, aren't they?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, like let's go." And again, this is new, but what I told Phil when we were in the national convention, I said, "Phil, you know what I love about you in this board game area?" I said, "You're just willing to try anything.
Yep.
Like
He is.
he will just play
Yep.
anything." And he's like, "Yeah," and I got smoked. Like we played apiary. He's like, "I didn't figure out any of this until the end." But he's like, "But I had a blast." And I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
I love that you just step into the space and you'll just sit down and just play anything. It does not matter what you put in front of him.
Yeah.
He will play it. And I just, to me, I'm like you said, more people would just be like, "Yeah, let's just sit down and have a good time." And I love that.
Yeah.
And to me, that just brings deeper fellowship and more camaraderie. And again, it doesn't have to be board games, man. Like you could take this into any space, and
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the other thing. Like I don't have to just diversify myself in board games. I should diversify myself, period, right? Like
Right. Right.
how do I get into other spaces that I might not be comfortable with for the sake of relationship?
Mm-hmm.
And not just expect everyone to come into my hobby, but also go into theirs.
Yeah.
And
That's a
sometimes
great
that
point.
can be super challenging, but I don't want to make it like, okay, cool, everyone's got to step into board games. I mean, no,
Mm-hmm.
like, am I willing to step into other people's spaces because that's what matters to them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so if I want them to come and play a board game with me, am I willing to go, to a hockey game? I don't know. Am I willing to do XYZ thing that maybe I don't like, or maybe I'm uncomfortable with or don't have enough exposure to or whatever.
Yep.
And I think that matters, man. I think that's so important to step into each other's other spaces.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. That's a great point.
It's how you grow, man.
Yeah, and probably yeah, maybe even the deeper theme here is just stepping into those uncomfortable places. I mean, that's even with the gospel, man, as we're called to go out and make disciples of all nations. Like a lot of people don't like evangelizing. A lot of people don't like preaching the gospel. They're cool
Yeah.
with having their Jesus to themselves and kind of just being a quiet Christian and living a good life and
Hmm.
but like, you got to have an account for the hope that's in you and be ready to give account for what you believe. And so
Yep.
even those spaces of being uncomfortable for God. I mean, if we're not uncomfortable for anything else, we should be uncomfortable for God
Yep.
because of the great price that He paid for us, right? So, like, I mean, this is no different in stepping out in that and for a greater cause than yourself.
Yeah.
And maybe like you said something earlier, I keep thinking about it is like, yeah, maybe there is a lot of diversity, and maybe it just in my limited time and my limited scope of what I see, I just don't see it. And I
Yeah.
don't see it, in the limited area that I'm in. I just haven't experienced yet. But I just think diversity in general, in what we do as Christian believers and brothers and sisters on this walk together is important to have diversity in every space that we're in and
Yeah.
seeking and always be aware of that and inviting other people in.
Hmm.
And I just know board games are a great tool.
Yeah.
A easy space to get together with people. And so yeah, I mean, if there is diversity happening, let's see some pictures. Let's hear about it. Let's hear some
Yeah.
stories. Send it in. Let us know. And what does your board game night look like? Let's get some
Mm.
pictures like in
Mm.
our Facebook group going and on the website that
Yeah.
we can check out and see and help me to see the diversity that's going on out here.
Let's support that.
Yeah,
Let's go.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's just, one, I love that. But two, this is just my optimism, right? You know what I mean? Like I'm optimistic and
yeah.
I don't always have to see something for it to exist. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
and so it's my hope that we see a lot more of this. And again, just especially in the space as believers, because we need to show the world different things.
Right.
right? Like when
Right.
the world wants to separate, we need unity.
Yes. Amen.
We were called as the body of Christ to be unified. Now, again, I think it's unification on the truth, right? Like I'm not going to unite with someone teaching falsely just for the sake of unity, but
Hmm.
again, we're to be a unified front, man, and it's like I long for that out of the body of Christ, where we can find ourselves as a unified front, again, standing firm on the truth, um, and being a light and a witness. Like again, we end our show with it every single week. Like let your light shine before others in such a way that they see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. Like we are to live in such a way that our light shines
Mm.
and then they glorify God.
Yep.
That is victory. That is
Amen.
winsome, right? That is like you're living in such a way that not that people look at you and they're like, but rather they look at you and they glorify God.
Mm.
Like, okay, like
Mm.
this is a big deal. And we do that in these spaces. We do that in showing the world something different. When the world says divide and you're this and you're that and all this, it's like, nah, we come together under the banner of Christ
Hmm.
first and foremost, and we represent him as ambassadors. All of a sudden we start speaking with boldness, right?
Yeah.
Like it just starts bringing things into a different space. And to me, it's like, I long for that because we're supposed to stick out,
Yep.
right? If the world saying divide, Christ says unify. I'm going with him,
Yeah.
right? And can we do that, right? And be and have the hard conversations. I mean, when again, regardless of how people feel, like when like the whole George Floyd thing and all that was going on, I was blessed to be
Mm.
invited into a panel to discuss race relations and at
Mm.
at a church, and it was like I mean, one, what an honor to be
Hmm.
considered to be able to sit down, and it was in one of our predominantly African American churches in Kalamazoo that they invited me in to be a part of like a Facebook Live with a few other people and to really talk about these things
Mm.
and hammer this stuff out in the middle of just some heightened um, racial tension, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to like right in the middle of it, and they're like, let's combat this. Let's bring people together and let's really talk about it.
Mm.
And I was like, wow, man, like I was blown away, just so honored to be a part of that because again, that's my heart. Like
Yeah.
how do we speak differently than the world?
Yes.
Like I'm not against you. You know what I mean? Like there's none of that's there. So how do we come together? How do we bridge these gaps? How do we be intentional in our relationships? And again, I mean, like, I think there's a lot of different context here, and this isn't to make anyone feel guilty or anything. There's a lot of different context. And
Right.
so again, it's like just utilizing board games as a tool, and Ray and I having a heart to be like, cool, how do we bring people together from different cultures and different things that have different experiences? Because again, diversity could even be just way different life contexts. It could be an older individual and a younger individual, because those
Yes.
things need to happen too. Because
Yep.
we need to learn from the older salty saints. I do. I have many of my counselors, right, that I go to, they're older than me
Right.
because I want their wisdom and their insight, right? And then to have the older folks be able to pour into the younger, and then the younger to
Mm.
pour even into the younger,
Yeah.
and live in such a way that the older see your godliness, right? Like this is Paul to Timothy. Don't let them look down on
Mm.
you because you're younger, but actually live godly and let them see that. And how we can so there's diversity even in age and in those kind of things, and how do we bridge those gaps? And again, gender wise and and ethnicity wise, like there's so many
Yeah.
variations to diversity
Yep.
in general that I think it's just so neat to be able to engage in this way
Yeah.
and to be intentional in these spaces and just say I tell people, it's like, yo, like this stuff, the way I see it, I mean, ultimately we know it starts with God and it ends with God, so don't
Hmm.
mishear me, but it's like it starts with me,
Mm.
right? Like I can't tell you, hey Ray, go and be a disciple maker. What should I be?
Yeah. Disciple maker.
Right.
Right.
Hey, go preach the gospel, Ray. What should I be doing?
Preaching the
Preaching the
gospel.
gospel, right?
That's
Like,
right.
so I shouldn't be calling you into something that I myself am not doing or willing to do.
Exactly. Yep.
And so it's like for this, it's like it starts with me, man. I am not going to go ask you to clean the bathroom unless I'm willing to go clean the bathroom. Like this
Mm,
is this as a leader, one of the greatest compliments I ever had when I received a promotion one time at a job was someone said, "I'm so glad that you got the role because you're not going to ask me to do anything that you yourself are not willing to do."
mm,
Bro, I could have just wept because I'm like,
mm,
that to me, that that is a character thing, right?
mm-hmm,
Like that, I'm not going to call you to go ask you to go do something that I'm not willing to do,
mm-hmm,
right? And I should be willing to do it before I ever ask you to do it, and I should be doing it before I ever ask you to do it, right? This is Jesus's model of discipleship, and I don't know if we've even talked about it, but it's I do, we do, you do. And we
mm,
might have talked about that in an earlier episode, but this is how I view this all. Like again, I can't say, "Hey man, we need to get, more diversity at the game table," and not myself try to make an active effort. Now, by God's grace, that's what we're doing. We're making active efforts in this in all areas. But it's like I need to be doing that.
mm,
Then we need to do it together. Now you go do it. And
right.
this is discipleship, right?
Yep.
This is Jesus's methodology. Like, okay, you see me do it. Now I'm training you up. We're going to do it together. Now y'all go out and you make disciples of the nations.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It seems pretty explicit to me.
Yeah.
But it's like I don't know, man. That's why I say like it starts with me. Like, and if
Mm-hmm.
we all had that mentality, if it starts with me, we'd have a whole lot of things starting.
I agree.
I
I
heard a
agree.
quote. I heard a quote, and this is going to give a little bit of a bend, and someone might hear this and be like, "Oh, I think I understand his eschatological views." That's fine. I'm not really too worried about it. I heard a book, or I was reading, I was listening to an audiobook, but this quote really struck me, and it's this idea like if you don't believe that the culture can be transformed, you will do nothing to transform the culture. Right?
Mm,
Like if your starting premise is that this culture is lost, it's gone. There is nothing we can do about it. There is zero emphasis on you being about doing anything in the relation of transforming it because your starting assumption is it's just going to get worse. Your starting
mm-hmm.
assumption is that there's no point in me building because nothing good is going to come out of it. Where my mentality, regardless of where you stand eschatologically, should be no. Christ has called you to go into this world to make disciples, and I believe that he intends to fulfill that,
Mm-hmm.
and he intends to utilize you in that space, and that he is transforming lives in and through you. Right? He's transforming your life, and he intends to use you to transform the lives of others.
Right.
Right? And I think this matters. And I believe that God is in the business of transforming lives and in turn transforming cultures. So my
Amen.
starting presupposition is that God is at work, he is
Mm.
moving, and he has a mission, and he has called me to it as an ambassador.
Yep.
This changes everything conversationally in this space because I operate in a different way. And again, I don't really care where you're at eschatologically. It does not matter. And maybe that's a big word and I don't know. Whatever. I'm not going to get into that. We'll be here all day.
Yeah.
But like but
Season 2 coming at you.
yeah, right. No, but it's like one of those things where it's like the call to go and to make disciples, the call to be active, the call to be the bridge maker, the call
Yeah.
to go and do these things and literally be about preaching the good news of Jesus and his kingdom in a transformative state, knowing that God is yet at work
Mm-hmm.
and that he's moving. This is I mean, the gospel is a gospel of hope,
Mm-hmm.
right? The gospel is a gospel of transformation. It is a beautiful thing, and I believe that God intends to use us to be able to reach the lost,
Amen.
and do stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like and so that for me, my starting point is that I believe that God intends to transform the culture,
Yeah.
and as a result, I want to be about that transformation,
Yep.
and
Yep.
watch him move, and I'm watching him move.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah. Yep.
so I get excited about it. Like I said, yeah, that's a whole different convo.
Yeah, but it does. It's on the back of it's coupled with this diversity because I mean when we are called to go into all the nations and make disciples of every tribe and every tongue and every nation, I mean that's really what we're saying here, right? In a nutshell is who are you bringing to the table? Who looks different than you? What other nation? What other tribe? What other tongue? Because what bring that diversity to the table.
Yeah.
Get to know them. Share your story. hear their story, get to understand each other better, and let's keep multiplying that and keep doing it so that we know each other and that we understand each other, that we break down the barriers, we break down the narratives, like you said, and that we are walking this road together while having fun doing it, you know?
Yeah. Well, and dude, the key word in the Great Commission is go and make disciples.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jesus didn't say go and preach the word. He
Right.
actually said go and make disciples, teaching
Right.
them all that I taught you, right? And disciples are those who follow Jesus. So yes, there is an element of go and preach the word, but it's make disciples. Go and make disciples.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is it's not general, it's very specific. Teaching them all that I taught you. Right? And this is a beautiful thing, because we are to literally go and teach the things of Christ and walk with people and teach the disciplines of Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
so that we follow after Christ, and it's disciples making disciples. And yes, don't mishear me. There is the evangelistic aspect of that, of preaching the word, but it's not just go and preach the word to all the nations. It's go and make disciples.
Mm-hmm.
That God intends to transform lives, that he intends to have people turn to him, so that we can then in turn make disciples.
Amen.
Right. And so to me, this is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I think the board game table and the board game space is a great tool in this. And I get, man, see, it's like the podcast just started, because now I'm all excited and we're like an hour in. It's been a super long, exhausting day. And now it's like, let's go. Wait a second. I know what we're doing. Retake the whole episode.
Yeah.
But no, there's a genuine excitement around it. And again, Ray knows a lot more, and he and I have had so many different conversations about what God's doing right now, and it really centering around discipleship and evangelism and board games, and how we can come together in this, and how we can reach the lost for Christ, and to disciple ourselves as believers at the board game table. And make that matter. And I don't know, it's an exciting time to be in the hobby as a Christian board gamer, in my mind.
I agree. There's something big is coming. Yes.
Yeah, man, I just got all worked up, right? I just got all like, woo, let's go.
And now we got to land the plane. Man.
I know. And I won't even be able to go to sleep after this, because I'm going to be all jazzed up, right? Like, yes, like, we got hours more. No, and we'll continue the conversation, I'm sure. I'm excited about, what's out ahead and all of that. And so, hey, we, again, like Ray said, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this. We would love to see, more pictures. We'd love to see all sorts of things, and just see how people are using board games to, again, drive these relationships, bring in this connection, discipleship, evangelism, bridge gaps, stepping into uncomfortable spaces, getting into just more and more diversity, and figuring out how we can utilize this wonderful gift that we've been given in board games, to reach people for Christ. And, and edify the body for Christ, and grow in this. And so, would love to hear that. And again, if you've got topics, all sorts of stuff, hit us up. I think you'd gathered by now that Ray and I are pretty approachable, maybe relatively. We kind of think we're funny, which is usually a win. And again, I don't think, no, I know we're not jerks. Yeah,
that's a fact. That's a true fact.
Just said it out loud. We're not jerks. And again, I think like that's why it's like, man, like, we want to talk to people, and we want to engage. So hit us up. You email us at christianboardgamers@gmail.com. Go to the website, christianboardgamers.com. Hit us through the contact, however you want to do it. Connect with us, Facebook group, whatever it is. And let's get about conversations. Let's just keep this thing growing, and what we're gonna go. And again, the Facebook group is growing like crazy. It's so cool to see. I think just even like, man, I don't even know. Like, we had hit 1,000, and now we're already almost at 1,200, and it's been just growing and growing, and it's just super exciting. I don't know, not much on our end. It's just the Lord taking control, and people getting excited. Yeah, so which is super, super cool. So as Jack Dunbar said from New Kingdom Gaming, he said, "Let's go. We broke 1,000. Now we're on our way to 100K." And I'm like, "All right, man, let's get it." So
Let's go.
I think that's
Yeah.
awesome, and I love his optimism, and so I'm all
Yeah.
for it, man. Like this is what God's got us on. So
There's got to be some diversity in a
heck yeah,
group of 1,000 people. So I want to hear
yeah,
about it. I want to see
oh
it.
yeah,
I want to hear about it.
and I definitely think there is, which is super cool.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That's what's up. So yeah, you can hit us up on all of our Facebook stuff. The Facebook group is facebook.com/groups/Christian Board Gamers. Again, don't use the page, but use the group. And we're Christian Board Gamers on everything, Instagram, all that fun jazzerific jazz. And so it's just at Christian Board Gamers. We kept it simple, and it's christianboardgamers.com as well. And there's more out ahead, so we're just really, really pumped up. So yeah, with that, we want to leave you with Matthew 5:16, like I stated earlier. Let your light shine before others in such a way that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. You have been called to be an ambassador for the King. Go and be an ambassador this week so that people may come to know Jesus as their Lord and Savior, or they will be edified and strengthened in the you coming alongside them and sharing a word in that day. So we just really want to encourage you to do that. So I'm going to stop rambling, but that's where I'm at. Just go out and make disciples and make disciples. Let's get it. So until next time, we'll have our final episode of season 1, episode 15. Don't even know. We're going to leave it as a surprise. No teasers, but we're kind of excited for that and excited for what's out ahead. So until next time, God bless. Peace.
Peace.